Hey everyone, welcome to Mr. Rainy Night. Before we dive in, drop a comment and let me know where in the world you're tuning in from. And if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe. All right, get comfy, relax, and let's begin. My name's Eli Grant. I've been driving 18-wheelers for over 12 years. I've seen jackknifed rigs, snowed-out highways, drunk drivers, deer suicides, you name it. But nothing ever messed with my head like what I went through that night. It started off like any other late-night haul. I was taking a load of palletized paper rolls from Knoxville to a warehouse outside Nashville. Pretty routine run, but I was running behind thanks to a brake issue earlier that day. Dispatch wanted the load there by sunrise, and I didn't want the penalty on my check. Sometime around 2:10 a.m., rolling through eastern Tennessee, I noticed my GPS suggested a quicker route, cutting through a state road I didn't recognize. Turn right onto Barlow Ridge Road, it said. Never heard of it, but the ETA dropped by 35 minutes. That was too tempting to ignore. The moment I turned off the main road, I knew I'd screwed up. The forest closed in almost immediately. The fog got thick, like it was pouring in from the trees themselves. My headlights couldn't cut through more than 30 feet ahead. Still, I pushed forward, figuring I'd hit a more open stretch soon. 10 minutes in, I came across an old, rust-covered sign hanging crooked on a leaning metal post. Bridge 47, weight limit 20 tons. The paint was flaking, and half the letters were worn away, but it was there. Now I drive a 38,000-pound rig. That's almost 19 tons. Technically under the limit, but barely. Still, the GPS insisted it was the way, and with no turnaround room on that narrow road, I pressed on. The bridge came into view, a 2-lane steel truss bridge, ancient-looking and shrouded in mist. It spanned over what I assumed was a ravine or creek. I couldn't see the bottom. As soon as my front tires touched the bridge, the radio crackled into static. My cab lights dimmed. The engine tone dropped, like the air had gotten thicker. I didn't like it, but I was already committed. I expected the bridge to last maybe 300 feet. Instead, I drove for minutes, 5, maybe 10. My eyes were glued to the fog ahead, waiting for the other side. Nothing, just more bridge. The steel beams above me looked rusted and warped, like they were decades past, needing replacement. But they kept going. And going. Then I noticed something in my mirror, a truck behind me. Same red Freightliner, same trailer, same company decal, same license plate. My blood went cold. That wasn't possible. I was alone on this road. I'd have seen headlights behind me before I entered the bridge. I radioed, "This is Eli Grant, red Freightliner crossing Bridge 47. You got a copy, driver?" Silence. Then static. And then my own voice responded, delayed by a few seconds. "This is Eli Grant, red Freightliner crossing Bridge 47. You got a copy, driver?" I stared at the CB unit, heart hammering. I hadn't pressed the mic again. I sped up. The bridge groaned beneath me, metal joints shrieking like they were tearing apart. But no matter how fast I went, that other truck stayed the same distance behind me in the mirror, perfectly aligned. My dashboard clock froze at 2:17 a.m. My GPS blinked red. Route lost. The odometer hadn't moved in 10 minutes. The fog ahead shimmered like heat waves rising from asphalt. But this wasn't heat. It was off. Like the road ahead wasn't quite real anymore. And then I saw another vehicle. Not behind. Ahead. Another Freightliner. Identical to mine. And in the split second before it disappeared into the fog, I could have sworn the driver looked like me. I gritted my teeth and floored it. If this was some kind of hallucination or fatigue-induced breakdown, I had to get out before I lost it completely. And then, just like that, headlights appeared ahead. Construction barriers, exit signs, real pavement. I burst out of the fog like a bullet, slamming onto solid road again. My ears popped. The radio came alive with local chatter. My phone lit back up. The bridge was gone. I looked in the mirror. No truck behind me. No bridge, just a stretch of cracked road leading back into the woods. I pulled over at a gas station 10 minutes later, hands shaking. Checked the clock, 5:02 a.m. I'd been driving for nearly 3 hours, but the odometer showed less than 8 miles traveled. I asked the guy at the counter if he knew about Bridge 47. He paused, gave me a long look, and said, "That old thing? Washed out back in '09. 3 truckers died when it collapsed during a flash flood. State tore it down. There's nothing out that way but woods now." Later that week, I looked up the news articles. There it was. Bridge 47 collapse, 2009. 3 drivers killed. One of the names? Elijah Grant. Same birth date, same company, same face staring back at me from an old obituary photo. I haven't taken a shortcut since. Some roads may be shortcuts on a map, but they lead somewhere else entirely. Somewhere that remembers, somewhere that sometimes reaches out to pull one more driver in. And I swear, if I hadn't sped up, maybe I never would have come back. It was nearly 1:30 a.m. when I found myself driving through the fog-drenched mountain roads of southern West Virginia, somewhere between Beckley and a whole lot of nowhere. I was hauling a refrigerated load, trying to make it to Charleston before sunrise. Just me, the hum of the engine, and the soft rhythmic squeak of windshield wipers cutting through a drizzle that never seemed to stop. I'm not the type to get spooked on the road. I've done long hauls for over a decade, seen my share of weird stuff. But something about that night was different. The fog felt thicker, heavier. My headlights could barely punch 30 feet ahead. The GPS lost signal twice, and even the CB had gone silent. Just static and emptiness. Then I saw him. A figure on the side of the road, thumb out, standing under a flickering street lamp at the edge of a gravel pull-off. He was tall and thin, wearing a gray hoodie and jeans. A dark baseball cap sat low over his face, shadowing his eyes. He didn't move as I slowed down, didn't flinch at the roar of the truck brakes. I don't usually pick up hitchhikers, not at that hour, not on roads like that. But something, curiosity, instinct, hell, maybe guilt, made me stop. I rolled down the passenger window. "Where are you headed?" He looked up just enough for me to catch a glimpse of his face. Young, maybe early 20s, pale skin, lips slightly parted like he wanted to speak but wasn't sure what to say. Finally, he murmured, "West, just west." "Hop in," I said. He climbed in quietly, clutching a small backpack to his chest. The cab suddenly felt colder. I glanced at the mirror as we pulled away. The road behind us vanished into the fog, and for a moment, I had this sinking feeling, like I'd just crossed a line I couldn't uncross. We drove in silence for a while. He didn't ask where I was going, and I didn't offer, just watched the lines roll by under the tires. The CB was still down, dead silent. No music, no voices, not even static now, just quiet. The kid sat stiff in the passenger seat, still hugging that backpack. His face never turned fully toward me. Just enough to see a sliver of cheek, the curve of his jaw under the cap. I tried small talk. "What's your name?" "Noah." "You from around here?" "Used to be." I waited for more. Nothing. At some point I noticed we were still in the mountains, steep rock on one side, a drop-off on the other. But something was wrong. The same curve, same split tree with the stripped bark. Then again and again, I was looping. I checked my odometer. It barely moved. GPS was a blank screen. I looked at Noah. He hadn't moved a muscle. "You all right?" He nodded once, still didn't look at me. Then he said something I'll never forget. "You ever get stuck in a dream you can't wake up from? One where everything looks normal, but your gut says it isn't?" I didn't answer. My mouth was dry. "I think this road's broken," he added. "Or maybe I am." I didn't know what to say, so I kept driving. Then my headlights caught something ahead. A bridge. Narrow but with rusted metal sides and no lights. I swear I hadn't seen it before, not on the last few loops. It appeared like it had been dropped there suddenly. Noah stirred. You can let me off there. What? The bridge? He nodded. There's nothing out there, kid. I know. Something in his tone made the hair on my arms rise. We reached the edge of the bridge and I stopped. He opened the door slowly. Thank you for the ride, he said. Then quieter. I never make it farther than this. He stepped down into the mist. I leaned to look, but he was gone. I sat there a full minute, engine idling. Then 2, then 10. Nothing moved, no sound. The bridge in front of me just faded into fog. No lights, no railing, like a structure half built in a dream. I backed up, heart thumping, and turned around. When I got cell signal half an hour later, I pulled into a gas station and searched. Noah Hitchhiker, West Virginia Bridge. Nothing relevant. Then I added accident. I found an article from October 2017. A 22-year-old named Noah Keene had died on a rainy night just outside Pine Hollow, not far from where I'd picked him up. Skid marks, lost control, fell off an old bridge during a fog storm. They found his body 2 days later, half buried in the creek bed. The photo hit me like a punch in the chest. Same hoodie, same cap. I sat in my cab for nearly an hour, staring at the screen. I didn't tell anyone. What was I supposed to say? I picked up a ghost and he asked to be dropped off at the place he died? I've kept driving. But that stretch of highway? I avoid it now, even if it adds hours. And sometimes late at night, I think about Noah. About how cold the cab got when he got in. How I never saw his face clearly. How he said, I never make it farther than this. And I wonder, how many other drivers have picked him up? How many will? Because some roads aren't just roads. They're wounds, and some passengers are memories that refuse to fade. My name's Rick Dalton, and I've been driving rigs for 17 years. That night was like 100 others. Dark highway, long haul, caffeine buzz, and the hum of wheels eating up miles somewhere along Interstate 40, between Amarillo and Oklahoma City. It was past 2:00 a.m. when I pulled into an old truck stop I hadn't planned on. The rain had started falling harder, and my eyelids were losing the battle. The place wasn't on my usual route. Stonebrook Plaza, faded sign, only 2 working gas pumps, and a flickering neon open 24 hours sign that looked like it hadn't been true in years. The parking lot was mostly empty. One old RV tucked near the back. No cars, no truckers outside. Just the storm and my own reflection in the wet pavement. Inside, the shop looked like it had been frozen in time. Shelves half stocked, a few dusty candy bars, rows of expired motor oil. No cashier, no music, just the faint buzz of the fluorescent lights overhead. I grabbed a coffee from the self-serve machine. It tasted like burnt plastic and cardboard, but it was hot. I sat down in one of the diner booths near the window just to rest my legs. That's when I heard it. Rying. A payphone in the corner, tucked beside a cigarette vending machine that looked older than I was, started ringing. I just stared at it. Nobody else in the store. No sound but the rain on the glass, and the shrill, sharp tone echoing through the building. It rang 5 times. Then I stood up and walked toward it, almost without thinking. I picked it up and pressed it to my ear. No voice. No words, just the sound of wind. A low, howling wind like it was coming from inside a tunnel. And beneath it, something distant, breathing, then click, deadline. I stood there for a long second holding the dead receiver to my ear, listening to nothing but the absence of sound. Then I hung it up. Maybe it was a prank, I thought, or some leftover line still live by accident. Maybe I was just tired. God knows sleep deprivation messes with the brain. Still, it felt wrong. Too wrong. I went back to my booth, trying to shake it off, hands still wrapped around the warm paper cup. My skin itched, like the air was charged. I took a sip. The coffee was colder than before, though not much time had passed. That's when the payphone rang again. Ryan. This time, it only rang twice. I didn't want to answer it again. Every cell in my body told me not to, but my legs didn't listen. I picked it up. For a moment, silence. Then a voice, not a normal one, a whisper, so faint I had to hold my breath just to hear it. Rick. It said my name. My stomach dropped. I hadn't told anyone I was here. Nobody knew I'd stopped. The voice continued. Exit 212, 20 miles to the left, then 12 more. That's where they wait. My heart pounded. That was my route, exactly my next stretch. I was supposed to take exit 212, turn west, and drop the load at a cold storage facility in a town called Grayford. The voice didn't ask for anything. It didn't threaten. It just listed, quietly, calmly, like it had a map in front of it and it was reading it straight off my delivery schedule. Same truck, same color, same driver. I froze. Then it said, almost sadly, "We've been watching since Amarillo." I slammed the phone back onto the hook. The line was still live. I didn't wait for a third call. I grabbed my keys and left the half-finished coffee on the table. As I stepped back into the rain, I turned to look through the fogged-up glass of the truck stop one last time. The payphone was still there, off the hook, swinging gently, like someone else had just walked away. I didn't turn on the radio. I didn't even glance at the CB. I just drove. The wipers dragged across the windshield like slow, tired claws, and every mile felt heavier than the last. My eyes flicked to the mirrors too often, looking for a shadow, headlights, anything. But the road stayed empty. I told myself I was overreacting. Maybe someone at the truck stop recognized me. Maybe dispatch called in ahead. Maybe something. There had to be an explanation, but none of it felt right. I passed exit 212, the one the voice had mentioned, and my hands trembled as I kept going. I didn't turn, didn't even slow down. 10 miles later, I stopped at a well-lit Love station just off the interstate. Bright, clean, music playing from outdoor speakers. The kind of place where weirdness couldn't follow you. I parked under the floodlights and went inside. Got another coffee, something sweet. Tried to breathe. The cashier looked up. Kid with gauges in his ears, chewing gum. He smiled and said, "Long night?" "Yeah," I said, forcing a chuckle. Weird one. I didn't mention the phone call, didn't say anything until I was nearly out the door. Then something made me stop. "Hey," I asked, "that other trucker, he already leave?" The cashier blinked. "What other trucker?" "The one ahead of me. Same company, same color Freightliner, same route, I think." He frowned. "You're the only rig that's pulled in for the past hour." I felt a chill trace my spine. "No one else came in with a red hauler?" He shook his head slowly. "Nope, just you. Why?" I didn't answer. Instead, I walked back outside, my boots echoing too loud on the pavement. My truck sat under the light, engine ticking in the cold. No movement, no one else around. But taped to my driver's side mirror was a note. Plain paper, ink smeared from the rain. 4 words scrawled in shaky handwriting. "We'll try again tomorrow." They say the highway plays tricks on you when you've been behind the wheel too long. Sleep deprivation, headlights, the rhythm of the road. It all starts to bend reality if you're not careful. I used to laugh at that. Until one night on Route 78 through rural Pennsylvania, I stopped laughing. It was sometime past midnight, maybe closer to 1 o'clock a.m. Rain was coming down hard, drumming against the cab roof like 1,000 angry fingers. I was hauling a load of construction parts to Allentown, pushing through the back roads because the interstate had closed for repairs. No other cars, no radio, just static. Even the GPS had frozen an hour ago. I was alone with the road, wrapped in fog and that low humming sound trucks make when you're too deep into a night run. Then I saw them. A figure, no, 2 figures, standing in the ditch on the right side of the road, half hidden in the trees. The first was a woman, soaked to the bone, her long dark hair plastered to her face. She wore a pale dress, clinging to her like tissue. And in her arms, a child. Small, maybe 3 or 4 years old, limp, quiet, pressed to her chest. I slowed instinctively. My high beams caught her just right, and I saw her eyes. She looked straight at me, not waving, not crying, just staring. I pulled over, maybe 50 feet ahead, tires hissing against wet asphalt, heart pounding. My hand hovered near the door handle. Who the hell would be out there at this hour, in this weather, holding a kid? Something didn't sit right. The road was narrow, no cars behind me, no sign of an accident, no broken glass, just her and the child. I turned to look back through the passenger side mirror. They were gone. I jumped out of the cab, boots splashing into ankle-deep puddles. The rain had picked up, icy needles against my neck. I shielded my eyes, scanning the shoulder and tree line. "Hello?" I called out. "Are you okay?" Nothing but the rain and the ticking sound of my cooling engine. I walked back toward where I'd seen them, her with the child. Each step sent water soaking into my socks. My flashlight beam danced wildly in the mist, catching glimpses of wet bark, broken twigs, and thorny brush. But no woman, no kid, no movement. I crouched near the ditch. Mud sucked at my boots. I searched for footprints, drag marks, anything. Then I found it. A small pink sock, child-sized, soaked and muddy, caught on a low branch just off the edge of the ditch. I reached out slowly and picked it up. Cold, real. My chest tightened. I turned in circles, flashlight cutting through fog and dark. "Ma'am, please, I saw you. You were holding a child." Silence. Back at the truck, I called the local sheriff's office. Told them I might have seen a stranded woman with a baby around mile marker 42. The dispatcher's voice was calm but cautious. "We've had a few calls like that over the years, sir. Same spot, always at night, always during storms." I blinked. "Wait, what? You didn't see anyone after stopping, right?" "No, just a sock." She was quiet for a second, then carefully, "How's your heart rate?" "What? Are your hands shaking? Feeling colder than you should?" I looked down. My hand was trembling, the sock still clutched in it. "We'll send a unit out, but they probably won't find anything. Don't go back into the woods. Get somewhere well lit. And if you feel off, don't drive for a while." She hung up. I sat there in the cab, soaked, staring at the sock. My mirrors showed nothing but fog. The ditch? Just a black strip along the road now. But I knew what I'd seen. She was there. They were there. And they had looked directly at me. I didn't sleep that night. I parked at a well-lit rest area 20 miles down the road, locked the cab, and just sat there, watching the rain trail down the windshield like ghost fingers. The sock was still on the dashboard. I couldn't bring myself to toss it. I kept thinking about her, how she didn't wave, didn't run, didn't even flinch in the rain. Just stood there, soaking wet, eyes fixed on mine like she'd been waiting. And the child. I never saw its face. It never moved, never made a sound. In the morning, the sheriff called back. "We sent a cruiser through," he said. "Nothing out there. No prints, no wrecks. Just trees and water." I asked him if he really thought I'd imagined it. He hesitated. Then, "Years ago, a woman and her daughter died on that road. Flash flood. Their car flipped into the ditch during a storm. Took 3 days to find them." I went cold. "Locals say she shows up sometimes," he continued. "Always the same, standing in the rain holding the girl, like she doesn't know they're dead, like she's still waiting for someone to stop." There was a pause. "Most people keep driving." I didn't say anything. How could I explain that I did stop? That I wanted to help? That I walked into the rain, searched the trees, held something she, or whatever was left of her, left behind? I ended the call. That was 3 months ago. Since then, I haven't taken Route 78 again. I reroute, even if it adds hours. But some nights, when I'm alone on the road, I still see her in my head, standing there, water streaming off her hair, eyes locked onto mine like a silent accusation. And worse, sometimes I dream of her closer, not in the ditch, but by the truck, at the door, her hand on the handle, the child's head rising slowly from her shoulder, those eyes, blank, heavy, ancient. I never saw them blink. I don't know what she wanted. I just know this. Some ghosts don't want to scare you. They want to be found. The job was supposed to be easy. Overnight freight from Denton, Texas, up to a warehouse just outside Wichita, Kansas. I'd driven the route before. Open highways, few way stations, not much traffic past midnight. I'd told myself it was just another haul. But the moment I picked up the trailer from the yard, something felt off. It was an older unit, dull gray with faded numbers, like it had been sitting for too long. The dispatcher said it was loaded with sealed pallets of insulation material, lightweight, no shift, nothing to worry about. Still, when I backed under it, I felt a slight pull, like the trailer had more weight than it should. Nothing crazy, just enough to give me that weird gut twinge. I brushed it off. It wasn't until I passed the Oklahoma border that things started to get strange. The roads were quiet, save for the occasional pair of headlights far behind. The rain had come and gone in patches, leaving fog streaking the shoulder like smoke. Around 1:30 a.m., I heard it. A dull thump from the back. I checked the mirrors, trailer lights steady, nothing swaying, no tire flaps, maybe a loose pallet settling. But 10 minutes later, another thump, louder this time, and then again, a slower, deliberate rhythm, not random shifting, more like footsteps. I turned off the radio. Silence. Then, tap. Not from the back this time, from inside the sleeper, right behind my seat. I spun around. Nothing. My skin went cold. I told myself I was tired, that I'd been driving too long, that it was just the road, or the wind, or the trailer creaking. But the sound was real. I pulled into a small gas station near Perry, got out, and walked the full length of the trailer with a flashlight. Checked the doors, locked tight, seal unbroken. But as I walked past the side, my light caught something on the metal wall near the rear doors. A streak, like a handprint dragged across the surface. It was long, too long, and it was on the inside. I didn't sleep when I stopped. After seeing that streak on the inside wall, I pulled into a 24-hour diner with a wide lot and plenty of light, parked under a lamppost, engine idling low. I sat in the cab for a long time, listening to the silence pressing against the windows. I kept thinking about that streak, that long, smudged trail that looked like something, or someone, had dragged their fingers along the inside of the trailer door. But the seal was still intact. That meant no one had gone in or out, right? I needed proof I wasn't going crazy, so I popped open the dashcam tablet, flipped through the timeline. Nothing unusual at first, just highway, signs, empty road. Then, around 1:34 a.m., I saw something. As the truck coasted through a foggy stretch near a wooded patch, the rear trailer lights flickered, just for a second. Then the brightness stabilized. But in that moment, a shadow shifted near the back. A tall, thin shape. It wasn't a person walking alongside. It wasn't a car. It was inside the trailer, blocking the light from behind, like something moved right past the thin slit between the doors. I scrubbed the footage again and again, and then I saw it, right after the flicker. A face, just barely, in the reflection of the side mirror, behind me. It looked like someone crouched in the sleeper for a split second, pale, eyeless, mouth too wide, then gone. I slammed the tablet shut. I hadn't let anyone in. I hadn't opened the back, and there was no one on that footage approaching the truck. That thing had been in there the whole time. I turned and looked at the sleeper bunk. Shadows lay heavy against the back wall, unmoving. But I couldn't stop thinking, what if it was still in there? I threw the cab lights on, searched every inch of the sleeper with a flashlight, even popped open the underbunk storage. Nothing. But on the mirror above the bunk, there was a single handprint, just moisture, like breath on glass. It hadn't been there before, and it was facing the wrong way, from the inside. I delivered the load just after sunrise. The warehouse guy signed the paperwork, popped the seal, and opened the doors. He looked in, blinked once, then asked, "You sure this thing was sealed tight?" "Why?" I asked. "Some of the pallets shifted. One of them's got a crack, like something heavy pushed against it from the inside." I didn't say a word. I just watched as they unloaded the trailer, pallet by pallet. No body, no stowaway, no shadowy figure waiting in the corner. But on the floor, near the rear bulkhead, was a smear, black, thin, like ash or soot, dragged in 4 streaks, like fingers. No one mentioned it, and I didn't ask. I left faster than usual, didn't even grab coffee. I just needed to get away. That night, back at my apartment, I tried to shake it off. Told myself it was just exhaustion, brain playing tricks, a smudge on the mirror, a trick of the light. I didn't believe it, but I said it anyway. Then I went to the bathroom, flipped on the light, and on the mirror, my mirror at home, was another handprint. Same size, same shape, moisture residue. Only this time, it was dead center, at eye level. And I hadn't touched that mirror in days. I wiped it away, didn't sleep. 3 days later, I got an email from another driver in my company. Subject line, "You ever seen anything weird near Perry?" I didn't reply. I just stared at the screen, knowing that whatever had been in my trailer, it wasn't the first time it had hitched a ride. And it wouldn't be the last. I called dispatch the next morning and told them to reroute me. No more Denton to Wichita. I don't care if it pays triple. I'm not running that haul again. They asked why. I told them I didn't like the terrain, but the truth, I couldn't stop feeling like something had followed me. Every time I saw a mirror, I checked for that print. Every time I opened the sleeper curtain, I flinched. And some nights, I still feel the trailer sway, even when I'm parked.